One, huh?
Sounds good to
So
me.
good afternoon. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Community Development Committee for the Met Council for July 6th, 2021. I'm the committee's chair, Robert Lilligren, and before calling the meeting to order, just to remind folks that we are acknowledging that COVID-19 is causing us to alter our procedures. The Metropolitan Council Chair has determined it's not practical or prudent to conduct an in-person meeting in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So accordingly, we will hold this meeting by WebEx, and committee members will participate by phone or other electronic means. The meeting is being live streamed. The video is embedded on the Met Council website along with the agenda. And let's see, if there are no questions, I'll call this meeting to order by taking attendance by roll call to ensure we have a quorum for this meeting. So Michelle, please call the roll.
Yes, Chair Lilligren. Atlas Ingebrigtsen.
Here.
Chambliss.
Here.
Cummings.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Lilligren.
Here.
Lindstrom.
Here.
Musset. Bento.
Here.
Wolf.
Here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. We have more than a quorum, so thanks everyone for joining us. The first item is on our agenda is our agenda, and so members and the public can see it posted at the Met Council website. And if there are no objections or changes to this agenda, then we can move on to other business. Any changes, objections? All right. Hearing none, the next item on our agenda is our minutes from the June 7th regular committee meeting, and I would entertain a motion to approve, please.
Bento moves approval.
Mr. Chair, I apologize. This is Lisa. It's the minutes are from our June 21st meeting. My apologies.
Thank you. So my apologies for that. So the motion is to approve the June 21st committee meetings, Councilmember Bento. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, council members. Any discussions, additions, corrections? Hearing none, Michelle, please call the roll on the minutes.
Yes, Chair Lilligren. Atlas Ingebrigtsen. Chambliss.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Lilligren.
Aye.
Lindstrom.
Aye.
Musset.
Aye.
Bento.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. That item is adopted. And next on our agenda is our consent agenda. There's two items on consent agenda that staff determined are routine and non-controversial for our consideration. The Shakopee Text and Density Comprehensive Plan Amendment and the Bridge Rental Assistance Program contract extension. And I would entertain a motion to approve, please.
Atlas
Wolf.
Ingebrigtsen moves.
Wolf seconds.
Thank you, council members. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, Michelle, please call the roll.
Yes, Chair Lilligren. Atlas Ingebrigtsen.
Aye.
Chambliss.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Lilligren.
Aye.
Lindstrom.
Aye.
Musset. Bento.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Thank you.
Musa Saito.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Musset. Michelle, got that. The consent agenda is adopted, and we'll move on to our non-consent business items. We have 4 this evening. The first is item 2021-167. It's a joint committees item. It's the comprehensive plan and comprehensive sewer plan, the 2040 comprehensive plans for the city of Birchwood Village. And Mr. Riley is here to present. Welcome, Mr. Riley.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. It's nice to be here or here, I guess, in front of you
Wherever you are.
again. Today you have before you the City of Birchwood Village's 2040 Comprehensive Plan. I'm Jake Riley. I'm the sector representative for District 12, Washington, which covers Washington County, parts of Washington County, in the local planning assistance group in the community development division. And forgive me, this is the first time I think I presented as the sector rep for districts 11 or 12, which is part of my my commitment as of the new year. So this is extra exciting. I invited Birchwood Village Mayor Mary Wingfield. She did a lot of work with me and her staff together to get them to this point, but I didn't see her in attendance. But know that we thank her very much for her hard work and cooperation with us. And so we'll move on to the next slide. This is the city of Birchwood Village. It's a lovely little hamlet on the shores of White Bear Lake. Figure 1 of the staff report identifies the location of regional system components within the city of Birchwood Village, and there aren't any. Wastewater generated within the city is conveyed by an interceptor, which is located in White Bear, and all of the roads in the community are local or other arterials, and there are no regional park system components in the city. Next slide. Birchwood Village community designation is that of suburban. Figure 2 in your staff report and shown here identifies the city as having a suburban community designation, which is consistent with Thrive MSP 2040. Birchwood Village is, as I said, located along the southern shore of White Bear Lake on the border of Ramsey County, and it's surrounded by the communities of Matamidi, White Bear Lake, and White Bear Township. Next slide. Thanks. Table 1 shown here and also in your staff report shows that between 2020 and 2040, the council forecasts that the city will decrease in population by 50 people. And apologies if you hear small people above me. I'm in the basement and they're all playing above me, representing no change in households. There will be no change in jobs in the city in the same time frame. I will say that typically the next slide would have a table that shows the planned residential density for the community. However, because the city has no forecasted growth in the planning horizon, and there's no planned change to residential densities, we don't have that slide. Given that communities with a suburban designation under Thrive are expected to plan for forecasted population and household growth at average minimum densities of 5 units per acre for new development and redevelopment, and there is none forecasted at this time for the city of Birchwood Village. The existing residential density of 3 units per acre is consistent with Thrive, and the plan does state that in the cases where there might be subdivisions or other redevelopment sites in the future, that they will plan for that 5 unit per acre threshold. Next slide, please. As you might imagine, given the household and population information, the existing land use shown here is figure 3 in the staff report are almost completely residential. That's 88%. And the remainder of the land is used for right-of-way, institutional, and parks open spaces, including 4 city-owned and managed public parks and 1 natural area, along with several trails and 6 lake access easements. There are 6 acres of undeveloped land, mostly as right-of-way, representing just over 2.5% of the city's land use. So that's not part of the potential for redevelopment in the future, referencing the forecasted growth. Next slide. Shows the 2040 planned land use, which is figure 4 in your staff report, and there are no changes anticipated to land use designation in Birchwood Village by 2040. I apologize for the resolution of the maps. They've been updated, but were originally created quite some time ago, since nothing much is changing in Birchwood Village. Next slide. The proposed findings before you today is that the plan conforms to Metropolitan Council system plans, is consistent with council policies, and is compatible with the plans of adjacent local governmental units and affected jurisdictions. This will be at the, next slide. This will be before the Environment Committee on Tuesday, July 13th. That's next Tuesday, and subsequently at the full council meeting on Wednesday, July 28th. And then next slide, the proposed action is that the Community Development Committee recommends that the City of Birchwood Village authorize We authorize the City of Birchwood Village to place its 2040 comprehensive plan into effect, advise the city to implement the advisory comments in the review record for transportation and wastewater. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions as indicated on the next slide, if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Yeah, thanks for your work on this and for your report. And please thank the mayor and others who helped out on this for their partnership. And any questions or comments on that report? Questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Riley has proposed 2 actions to authorize the City of Birchwood Village to place its 2040 comprehensive plan to effect and to advise the city to implement advisory comments. Is there a motion to approve, please?
Wolf moves approval.
Thank you, Councilmember. Is there a second?
Bento seconds.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion? Any discussion? Hearing none, Michelle, please call the roll.
Yes, Chair Lilligren. Atlas Ingebrigtsen,
Aye.
Chambliss,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Lilligren,
Aye.
Lindstrom,
Aye.
Musset,
Aye.
Bento,
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. That item is adopted, and we'll move on to our next non-consent business item. It's 2021-168, another joint committees item. It's the 2040 comprehensive plan, comprehensive sewer plan for the city of Champlin. And Mr. Riley, once again, is going to present. Mr. Riley.
Thank you, Chair Lilligren. In front of you today, you have the City of Champlin 2040 Comprehensive Plan, and I'm here to present this plan for you, which happens to be in District 2. And I'd like to let you know that Scott Schulte, the City of Champlin's Community Development Director, is listening today, and I'd like to thank him and the consultant team that he worked with for the work they put into the plan. So today is the review of that plan. We'll go to the next slide. And regional systems in the City of Champlin. This map reflects figure 1 of the staff report, and in the City of Champlin, there are 3 interceptors and 1 lift station. There's 1 principal arterial in Champlin, which is US 169. You see goes sort of north-south through the city and across the river. Speaking of the river, the regional parks, park reserves, and/or special recreation features in the city include Elm Creek Park Reserve and the West Mississippi River Regional Trail. Next slide. Champlin's community designation is also suburban, and the plan identifies it as such, which is consistent with Thrive MSP 2040, is located in the northeastern part of Hennepin County and is surrounded by the communities of Anoka, Coon Rapids, Brooklyn Park, Maple Grove, and Dayton, and it has the Mississippi River running along its sort of northeastern border. Next slide. Forecasted growth in Champlin is shown on table 1 here and also in your staff report, which forecasts that the city will grow by 800 people and 800 households with an increase of 400 jobs in the city in the same time frame. However, as you can see on the slide, the City of Champlin has requested a forecast adjustment in part based on more recent population estimates and development in the city regarding changes from septic systems to sewage systems, and the city proposes a forecast addition of 1,000 people between now and the 2040 planning horizon, representing 900 households. And the council will officially revise the city's forecast simultaneous with action on the plan. With this forecast revision, the 2021 to 2030 affordable housing need for the city calculates to 115 units. At less than 30% or less of area median income, 66 units at 31 to 50% of area median income, and 20 units at 51 to 80% of area median income for 201 total units. And that revision is also acknowledged in the plan. And the staff report shows that the land guided to support that affordable housing need number is figure 6, and they've adequately supported that. Next slide is the planned residential density. Also in your staff report as table 2, the overall density for guided residential land is expected to be between 5.4 and 9.4 units per acre, which is consistent with a suburban designation, which is expected to plan for population and household growth at an overall average minimum density of 5 units per acre for new development and redevelopment. Next slide. The existing land use is shown on figure 3 in the staff report, and here existing land uses in Champlin are predominantly residential at 61%, with most of the existing commercial and office and industrial areas totaling 5% being near the transportation corridor of 169. Approximately 24% of the city is comprised of institutional school uses and parks open spaces, including Elm Creek Regional Park Reserve and the Mississippi River, as noted earlier. Next slide, please. The 2040 future land use map for the city of Champlin is shown on figure 4 of the staff report, and here much of the anticipated land use changes are in and around existing commercial and industrial uses. The city has added a mixed use land use category for the 2040 plan, and the mix of uses are described as being potentially horizontal or vertical mix of uses and centered around the more established commercial district adjacent to the river in the north on your map in pink. Next slide is your proposed findings. The findings for the City of Champlin Comprehensive Plan is that the plan conforms to Metropolitan Council system plans, is consistent with council policies, and is compatible with the plans of adjacent local government units and affected jurisdictions. On the next slide, you see the meeting schedule, similar to the Birchwood Village one, Environment Committee on Tuesday, July 13th, and final authorization anticipated at the Metropolitan Council meeting on Wednesday, July 28th. I think Scott is with us, although I'm not sure if he called in or just is watching, as it were. So I'd like to thank him again for his time and the time of his consultants and staff. So before you, your proposed action is to authorize the City of Champlin to place its 2040 comprehensive plan into effect, revise the city's forecasts as shown in Table 1 of the attached review record, revise the city's affordable housing need allocation for 2021 to 2030 timeframe to 201 units, and advise the city that within 60 days of receiving final Minnesota State Department of Natural Resources approval, the city must adopt their Mississippi River Critical Area Plan and Mississippi River Corridor Critical Area Plan and submit a copy of the final adopted plan and evidence of adoption to the DNR Council and National Park Service within 10 days after the adoption. And I live in a city with a MRCA plan, but I don't actually have any in my own communities that I've done before. So that was fun to get through. So I appreciate you, and I will take any comments or questions as needed. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Riley, for the report, and our thanks to Mr. Schulte and his team as well for their work and their partnership. Committee members, any questions on Mr. Riley's report? Any questions?
This is Councilmember Chambliss.
Councilmember Chambliss.
I don't have any questions, but thank you for the presentation, and thank you to the City of Champlin for putting together their comprehensive plan. I often use the Elm Creek Park Reserve and walk there on a regular basis with friends, along with the Mississippi Gateway Regional Trail. So it's very well used and very enjoyable, and glad to see that there's going to be some good improvements in the mixed use planning.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember Chambliss. Did you want to move approval of this item?
Yes, I would like to move approval of this comprehensive plan.
Thank you, Councilmember. Is there a second?
Second, Atlas Ingebretson.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any discussion on the motion? Discussion? Hearing none. Michelle, please call the roll.
Yes, Chair Lilligren. Atlas Ingebretson,
Aye.
Chambliss,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Lilligren,
Aye.
Lindstrom,
Aye.
Lucet,
Aye.
Vento, Wolf.
Aye.
Thank you.
Michelle, that motion carries. And we are on to our next non-consent business item. It's 2021-161. its funding recommendations on the Regional Park System Equity Grant Program, the 2021 funding recommendations. And Jessica Lee is here to present. Welcome, Ms. Lee.
Thank you. Good afternoon, council members. I'm Jessica Lee, Senior Park Planner, presenting business item 2021-161, Regional Park System 2021 Equity Grant Program Funding Recommendations. Next slide, please. So as a reminder, Thrive 2040 and the 2040 Regional Parks Policy Plan committed the council to developing a competitive equity grant program for projects that strengthen equitable use of the park system across age, race, ethnicity, income, national origin, and ability. In 2019, a pilot program made $300,000 available for capital projects. The council received 15 applications requesting well over $1 million. 3 of those projects were funded. The pilot program showed a great need for additional funding, especially non-capital funds, to support equity programming. Next slide, please. So the council responded to the pilot program by dedicating more funds for the 2021 round. This year, we have $664,000 in council bonds for capital projects and $1.4 million in parks interest earnings, prioritized for programming projects. Agencies were allowed to apply for multiple projects, but are limited to a total funding of $400,000 each, $200,000 from council bonds and $200,000 from interest earnings. Next slide, please. The application process was very successful in both the quality and quantity of proposals. 37 projects were submitted, at least one from each agency, requesting a total of $3.8 million. A formal review team came together to develop the funding recommendations you are seeing today. The review team was comprised of members of the Metropolitan Parks and Open Space Commission, CDC, the Equity Advisory Committee, and implementing agency staff. Each review team member reviewed and scored the projects on their own, and then the group came together to discuss them. The scores were used as a starting point for the conversation, but the review team also considered other aspects of the proposals. After much discussion, the reviewers reached consensus and 23 projects were recommended for funding for a total of $2,054,000. Next slide, please. 16 programming projects are being recommended. The review team agreed to prioritize using the interest earnings for programming or non-capital projects, and there was enough funding available for each agency to receive these funds. The highest scored projects include the Walk-On Teepee Center Exhibit Concept Plan at the Bruce Bento Regional Trail, funding a community outreach staff position for Washington County, and hiring youth at the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board as a catalyst for regional park awareness and increased visitation for underserved communities. Other recommended projects include expanding the Pathways internship program and bike outreach at Three Rivers Park District, a St. Paul Aquatics water safety and drowning prevention program, BIPOC engagement through sports programming in Bloomington, multicultural and multilingual advertising for Minneapolis Parks, a Learn to Ski program in Ramsey County, a mental health and nature-based wellness program in Scott County, a Learn to Bike program, cultural liaisons, translation services, and an augmented reality trail program, all in Anoka County, and an ADA assessment update for Carver County. Next slide, please. 7 capital projects have been recommended for funding. These recommendations were more difficult due to the limited funding availability. Again, the scores were used as a starting point for the discussion, but they also considered the equity impact of the projects and the geographical distribution across the region. Most of the capital projects recommended are a blend of capital and programming and have strong community engagement and partnerships, which increase their overall equity impact. The top 3 capital projects are the Washington County Parks on the Go Outreach Vehicle, Dakota County's Building and Bridging Community by creating equitable spaces along the Mississippi River Greenway Regional Trail, and the St. Paul BIPOC Ambassador Program. The other projects recommended are paddle sport equipment and rental station combined with Learn to Paddle programming, accessibility improvements for Washington County parks, creating welcoming ways to access the Eloise Butler Wildflower Garden and Bird Sanctuary at Theodore Wirth Regional Park, and equitable shore fishing access improvements in Scott County. Next slide, please. This table shows the total recommended funding by agency. Overall, there's a great distribution of equity programming projects throughout the region, and a really good distribution of capital projects considering the amount of capital funds available. Next slide, please. There were quite a few takeaways from the review committee. Overall, the review team thought the agencies submitted really great proposals. They were especially pleased with the programming projects and the capital projects that had strong programming components. One of the big takeaways was that many of the projects that scored the highest seemed to be developed specifically for the equity grant program, rather than trying to fit an existing project into an equity application. Strong community engagement and partnerships were also very important. For some projects, the review team would have liked to see more diverse representation of the community involved in the design of the projects. There are also some concerns around hiring BIPOC staff without a pathway towards permanent positions after the grant period is over. And finally, there was a desire to spread the funding beyond the urban core. Next slide, please. So with that, the recommended action is that the Metropolitan Council approves funding 23 projects totaling $2,054,000 for the Regional Park System 2021 Equity Grant Program, as shown in Table 1 of the report, and to authorize the Community Development Director to execute the grant agreements on behalf of the Council. I also just want to thank everyone who helped make this program a success, especially the review team members who helped develop these funding recommendations. So thank you, and with that, I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Ms. Lee, and I want to add my thanks and the thanks from the committee for all the folks involved and for the MPOSC members as well for all the work they do. Committee members, questions, comments on Ms. Lee's report?
Chair,
I see a hand
Councilmember
up, but I
Atlas.
can't see the
Yeah,
name.
Councilmember Atlas
Great.
Ingebrigtsen has her hand up,
Thank you.
and then followed by
Councilmember
Councilmember Lee.
Thank you. Councilmember Atlas Ingebrigtsen.
Thanks, Chair. And I have just a few things. One of the key staff that supports this work, Emmett Mullen, was not able to be at CDC today. And as liaison, I thought I would share a few pieces of information from this experience and thoughts from the commissioners from our MPOSC meeting where we voted on this just last week. So just wanted to share that this is really exciting work. It's nation leading program, and it is really built upon the work of the past commission and council members' work, and a continuation of that really exciting work, being one of the first, if not the first, equity grant really developed program in the nation. Many other agencies are starting to put grant programs like this together, but we're now in our third round of funding. And so that's really exciting, and really proud to be able to be a part of this work. This was, as staff mentioned, really enhanced this year, and we were able to have implementing agencies as well as additional other council members take part, along with commissioners, in reviewing all of the grants that we received in this year, and to be able to focus on non-capital. One of the things I remember, one of our first meetings, a couple of council members really talked about the need for us to do more programming, and that's really what this focus is on. So we're able to take advantage and honor the original intent of the interest earnings program by focusing on providing access via programming for populations that have been historically underserved. So we've saw a lot of growth in the types of applications and understanding from agencies from last year to this year, and there's still more support to do. A couple of things that the commissioners really liked was seeing applications that really looked at diversifying the employees within the agencies and providing really thought out programs from the beginning of the development through the end. One of our staff mentioned today, some of the concerns that came up with this. We don't think it's a good thing to have people employed where there isn't an idea or plan for a stabilization of those roles in the future. But there's a few things that the commission wanted us to think about going forward. And one of those things were, how can agencies, the council, and Metro Transit partner together to create opportunities to really connect these resources in the urban core and beyond the urban core with transit and access to these parks and trails. Also, the idea that we could really do better to help support agencies. Every time we do this, we learn more, as well as supporting the different entities that we're a part of, our commissioners that aren't on the review committee, and council members, by providing a short synopsis of each project so they can really understand what were the projects that we were seeing and a little bit more about those that we approved. The other things that we talked about is the need to start thinking about and identifying how will we measure success for this work, from increased participation at these facilities and programming sites once they get up and running, from diversification of employees throughout our field in these regional park systems. Stronger engagement relationships between agencies is another thing that we ideated could be measured, as well as the agencies themselves talking about the growth and support and capacity building we're providing through these programs. So that's a little bit about this. I've said a lot about how excited I am about this over the last several months, but wanted to provide that additional information as Emmett was out today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments, Councilmember, and for your work.
Councilmember
Okay.
Lee is next.
Yeah, Councilmember Lee, and I'm just reading your apology in the
Yep, thanks, Chair.
messages.
I was
Councilmember
on.
Lee.
Thanks, Chair. I was on the one of the committee reviewers in 2019 during the pilot year, and I wanted to thank and commend the staff and everyone on the selection committee again for the incredible work that they do. The deliberations are extremely thoughtful and thought-provoking, and so there's always great insights, and so I really commend the work of all the staff and volunteers who stepped up.
Thank you, Councilmember, and thanks for stepping up and for your work on behalf of the council. Further discussion or questions? Councilmember Lindstrom.
Well, thanks, Mr. Chair. I had the pleasure of being on the review committee this year. And I will tell you, it was a hard decision, really hard decision to make. There was almost $4 million in requests. And it's a darn good thing that it was a hard decision because, as other folks have said, these were really solid proposals that were coming to us, really thought out. And as Councilmember Lee said, I do want to give a high five, a virtual high five, Jessica, to you and to Emmett, and as Councilmember Atlas Ingebretson said as well. I thought the whole process from start to finish was really well done. The review team, the makeup of the review team was really solid, and we had all the information we need to make a good informed decision, and we had a robust, thoughtful discussion. We had ample time, just well done. And clearly the implementing agencies had ample time and had the right information for them to make a clear and well thought out proposal. Since we had 33 of them, I think is the number, of, as I recall correctly. And so, yeah, I'm just excited to get a report back, talking about how do we measure success, to get a report back, first of all, to see it in action in the months ahead, and then to hear back about which ones really hit it out of the park, which ones face challenges, etc. But Councilmember Atlas Ingebretson, I remember that conversation we had, one of our first meetings about programming. And so here we are seeing this put into action around biking and aquatic safety and cross-country skiing, and much, much more. So yeah, this is a big step in the right direction, I feel, and I'm excited for the future, for future rounds. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Further discussion on the report, Councilmember Vento.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to note that I will abstain from voting, although I don't have a conflict of interest. There may be a perceived one.
Thank you, Councilmember, for that notice. Further discussion on this report? Further discussion. I'll ask for a motion in a second, but Ms. Lee, I just want to really lift up what everyone else has said about how exciting this is. Thanks to the council that preceded us for establishing this equity program, and I feel like this council really has sort of moved with that as well, and so it's exciting to see the interest in it and to see we're going to successfully give money to these projects. So thanks, and if you'll thank, please, Ms. Lee, on behalf of the committee, all the folks that are involved. And I would ask for, Ms. Lee has recommended two actions to approve the funding for 23 projects totaling $2,054,000 for the Regional Park System 2021 Equity Grant Program, as shown in Table 1 of the report, and authorize the Community Development Director to execute the grant agreement on our behalf. And is there a motion to approve, please?
Chair, I'd like to move approval of this. Thank you.
Thank you,
Second.
Councilmember. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. It's properly before us. Is there any discussion on the motion? Discussion. Seeing none, Michelle, please call the roll.
Yes, Chair Lilligren. Atlas Ingebrigtsen,
Aye.
Chambliss,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Lilligren,
Aye.
Lindstrom,
Aye.
Musse, Vento.
Abstain.
Excuse me. Wolf.
Abdis, yes. Moses, yes.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Musse and Vento. Excuse me, Wolf.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. That item is adopted. And we will move on to our final business item for today. That is 2021-162. It's the annual Metropolitan Regional Parks Operation and Maintenance Allocation. And Abdiwahab Ali is here to present. Mr. Ali, welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, it's good to see you again. It's been a full year. July to July. My name is Abdiwahab Ali, and today I'll be presenting the annual Metropolitan Regional Parks Operations and Maintenance Allocation business item. Next slide, please. O&M is in State Statute 473.351. It's one of the parks funding programs that's very helpful to the regional park systems. It's required in the statute by July 15th of each year that the Metropolitan Parks and Open Space Commission reports to the council the funding requests from the implementing agencies based on the actual expenditures made in the previous year. The state legislature funds a portion of the expenses necessary to run the regional park system because the system draws a significant percentage of its visits from outside the metro area in the state of Minnesota, which is a good thing. And the law requires the council to review the operating expenses of each agency for eligibility on an annual basis. Next slide, please. The O&M, or operations and maintenance, is underpinned by a formula that's in state statute, which provides the following distribution for O&M. 40% based on previous year's O&M expenses, 40% based on proportionate share of total system visits, and 20% based on previous year's proportionate share of total acreage. Next slide, please. State fiscal year 2022 O&M distribution. Last year, O&M, or operations and maintenance, or expenditures for the regional park systems totaled about $112 million. As you can see in the table here, we have the funding distribution as well in the column to the right, and then also the state fiscal year 2022 O&M distribution amounts for each implementing agency. Next slide, please. As you can see in this slide here, during this year's O&M process or development of it, staff discovered an error in last year's O&M allocations, and we're currently working through the logistics and mechanics on correcting it. It was a data entry error in which trail acreages weren't included, and you can see here the impacts for each implementing agency. Again, we're currently working through this correction, and obviously we'll update you as once we come to a conclusion on it. Next slide, please. Again, it's a short business item, but to recap our O&M business item, state fiscal year 2021 allocations will be corrected. The state fiscal year 2022 operation is $2.54 million in the general fund breakdown and $7.45 million in the lottery in lieu. This amount is an increase of $850,000 in the lottery and loop portion each fiscal year compared to the last biennium, which is a positive. We're seeing more money flow into this park program. Next slide, please. And to recap, the action item is that this committee here accepts the Regional Park System State Fiscal Year 2022 O&M annual report and funding distributions, and also accepts the corrections to the State Fiscal Year 2021 O&M funding distribution. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ali. Questions on that report? Any questions?
Mr. Chair, this is Councilmember
Yeah.
Wolf. I don't
Thank you,
have
Councilmember.
a question. I have my usual comment that when the legislature put in the Parks and Trails legacy funding, they said it was supposed to supplement, not supplant existing funding, but in their own budget, the state budget, they have largely supplanted what used to be O&M funding. And state law says there's supposed to be 40% of the budget funded by state. The highest it ever got was 17%, and I just did a quick calculation, and it looks like we've dropped below 9% now. So it's clearly supplanting the state funding. So that's just my soapbox of the day.
Thank you, Councilmember, for always bringing that up, for your consistency there, and we do see how that that dynamic reverberates through all of our implementing agencies as well, and impacts our spending decisions. Thank you, Councilmember Atlas Ingridson, for that thumbs up. She agrees.
Councilmember Wolf's soapbox. Maybe we need a soap platform or something else. But I just wonder, this has been an issue all along, and as Councilmember Wolf said, it's written into the statute so clearly. I just wonder, has the council ever submitted any type of letter? I mean, I don't know that we need to say that it's happening, but acknowledging that it's happening and asking for something different to happen. Is that something we've ever done or could do?
And Councilmember Wolf may have a response. Also, if Director Barajas may have something to say. Councilmember Wolf.
So we're not supposed to lobby anything other than what the governor tells us, because since we work for him. And so it has not been in the governor's budget either, unfortunately.
Thank you, Councilmember. Director Barajas, anything to add?
I would just concur with Councilmember Wolf, and that's across administrations for a long time. And we do get asked about it at when we present to the various committees. Aren't you supposed to do this? And we say, that's actually your job, legislature.
Thank you. Yeah, Councilmember Atlas Ingridson.
Maybe it's just letting people know that this is what's happening, not necessarily lobbying one way or the other, but just acknowledging. If you're curious, here's the current percentage. Maybe that would be appropriate or okay.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Mr. Chair, council members, that actually is part of my presentation to the legislature. Each year I present budget is our total operations and maintenance totals year over year and how they increase, and then how our allocation from the legislature is essentially flat over this time. Maybe it will stick someday.
Thank you. Further discussion on Mr. Ali's report? Further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Ali has recommended that the Community Development Committee accept the Regional Park System State Fiscal Year 2022 Operation and Maintenance Annual Report and funding distributions, and to accept the corrections to the state fiscal year 2021 Operations and Maintenance funding distribution. Is there a motion to approve, please?
Muse,
Vento moves approval.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Wolf seconds.
Thank you, Councilmember, for that. Any discussion on the motion? Discussion. Hearing none, Michelle, please call the roll on the motion.
Yes, Chair Lilligren. Atlas Ingebrigtsen,
Aye.
Chambliss,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Lilligren,
Aye.
Lindstrom,
Aye.
Musse,
Aye.
Vento,
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. That item is adopted, and congratulations, committee members. We've moved through quite a bit of business in a very short time, including investing some $11–12 million in our regional park. So, well done. Any other items of committee members? Director Barajas, anything?
Nothing additional,
Hearing-
thank you.
Thank you. And seeing no further business before this committee, we're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a good
everyone.
week.